Hello, I'm Matthew Pete Lester here to talk about Chapter 5, Honesty and Candor. First I looked at it, it said honesty or candor, and I thought how they can coincide with each other. And I'll get started. Some of the chapter highlights that I found: moral transgressions, some of the hallmarks to look for, storytelling, brain trust, that's a big one throughout this chapter, good reasons to do things here, having a passion for your work, good ideas, creative ideas, the basic truth, adopting advice, good notes, and selecting good people. Should people be honest? Yes, they should be honest. If we're going to work with them, we should have the right people in place to give us honesty. And they said, of course, in the book, the answer is yes. Should a person endorse dishonesty? It's a question. No, they should be honest, and we should find out the truth in our communication and conversations with our organization. Ed Catmull says there are often good reasons to not be honest. I mean, we can disagree or agree or disagree there. But being dishonest creates a dilemma or a moral transgression, he says. To uncover the facts and issues, a great need to mislead or to withhold information, maybe to protect somebody in the group, to not say the full story, right? And that's what we hear. The purpose is to unfold collective knowledge in the group. Around the table, you've had these round table meetings, and somebody withholds the knowledge and maybe tells you after the meeting they should have said something during the meeting that could have made a big gain for the organization. We must feel free ourselves of the honesty or dishonesty baggage, he says in the chapter. Let's go to the next slide. Candor. Candor is not so different from dishonesty, he says. Catmull says the word communicates not just telling the truth, but lack of reserve, and being reserved is healthy and necessary for an organization to survive. It's something to take a look at. So not just telling the truth, but a lack of reserve and being reserved is healthy. I sort of disagree with that one. Because people hold back their tongues. They bite their tongues, hold communication, important information that could be vital to the growth and the healthy organization. The word dishonesty makes it harder to talk about these barriers. He says there are legitimate reasons not to be candid. All right? That's what he says. Candor does not embrace or offend others. Catmull says, choosing my words carefully feels like the smartest strategy. Next slide, the hallmark of candor. Candor makes a healthy, creative culture in the organization, letting people feel free to share their ideas, share their opinions, and share their criticisms. And it's not being dishonest, he says, but it's just a form of candor, right? He shares, to ensure a group is using candor. Pixar builds a brain trust 4 ways. They push excellence, they root out mediocrity, assess what the company is making, the films that they make. They do an assessment on this. Create straight talk in the meetings. Straight talk has to have some honesty in it, in the organization, these round table meetings. You have to be honest. Just put the goods and the bads out on the table. Let's see what happens, right? And the 5th, he says, find smart, passionate people to solve problems. Encourage candid behavior. I agree that organizations, they cannot function well without healthy, vibrant, truthful, honest behavior. Okay, the next slide, brain trust. Brain trust at Pixar is one of the most important traditions that they have in the company. Highlight the difficulties of achieving candor, sets the tone for everything. varies in size and purpose, he says. Without candor, there can be no trust. That's a tough one there. Without trust, there can be no creative collaboration. So we have to trust each other and to have creative ideas and share these ideas and build upon our viewpoints and opinions. And it's what I think in my perspective. Candor creates storytelling among the brain trust. Now, I've seen storytelling in honest formats too, in healthy situations, organizations, and meetings. Brain trust, he says, at Pixar is a high-function working environment. Because of candor, they're high-functioning. Brain trust developed somewhere from the Toy Story movie to Toy Story 2, he says, organically. It evolved and developed in this chapter, he says. Again, next slide, brain trust. Things that do not motivate the brain trust because they have seen each other, the peers and the passion, the making of the films. They know how each other works. So it did not motivate these three things. Getting credit for an idea. So they see the candor. With this candor, someone doesn't raise their hand, take credit for an idea. It's a group idea. Pleasing their supervisors. They're not doing this or saying these things, having these viewpoints or opinions just to please management and the leadership. Winning a point just to say that you've won the argument, right? There were discussion, communication in organizations, right? Brain trust. Things that did develop from the brain trust. Trust, mutual respect, problem-solving power. I like that mainly, I guess, the larger leaders have the bigger ideas, right? Fourth, production. Films like Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Toy Story 2 came about. It's a tight group, well-defined, experienced people on the panel of this brain trust, consisting of directors, writers, and heads of departments. The group's values have never been changed. They've been a common core value system, I guess, since they started and developed and evolved organically. Good reasons for brain trust, he says. There are good reasons for having candor in a meeting. People will be polite to each other. People will have respect and defer to others. They do not embarrass themselves or embarrass others. They do not come off as having all the answers. There are lots of pressure in these large meetings because lots of financing and money is on the table in organizations, business to business. Lots of pressure, more people, more pressure type thing. Candor produces candid discussions without crossing lines and barriers, he says. Candor causes Pixar to turn a bad project into a good project. Creativity starts with candid and candor discussions. They work, they rework, and work because of candor. Next slide, brain trust again. People that take on a project get lost in a project sometimes. Artists, illustrators, creative departments, they get overwhelmed and just get lost in a project. Sometimes need to be turned into a certain direction. I've done that. And it is the natural things they create, internalize, become involved in the details. So they need a little bit of help. The brain trust can turn these people in the direction that the organization wants them to go, especially in the filmmaking. Give them fresh perspectives. They have patience to work with them. And candor comes out of this and is discovered through this process. And the problems that come about. Tensions can still happen, all right? Candor or honesty, and honesty. They still have tensions between two people or a group. Non-creative environment exists. People get locked in their own personalities and they hold back their communications and thoughts, making it difficult to bridge the divide, okay? Next slide. Pixar's business model. Create an environment where people want to hear the notes. He mentions the good notes in here, the elements of what makes a good solid business model. They discuss good and bad notes, and they're challenged by these notes, and they work with each other to find solutions. They have a vested interest in the success of the company, offers freedom to speak and responsibility across the board. The outcome is promising of the stories and movies and productions that they put together here. Filmmakers engage and emerge from the group here. Passion emerges from the group. And you can see how these people maybe have volume when they speak and they communicate. And the brain trust is different from each part of the departments. These are very creative and intelligent people. He says, with grace, they are brought together. The difference of brain trust and candor and how it all works. Made up of people with a deep understanding of storytelling. The group welcomes critics to come into the group and speak. Brain trust has no authority in this. He says the director does not follow the suggestions of the brain trust. They can use them or not use them, the ideas. They have their own, they can identify their problems and give solutions. That's the difference. They alleviate the pain and root out the problems here. Conflict, they can root all of that out and find it and pinpoint it. Brain trust notes causes the problems to surface and come about. And creative ideas come out of this, and they can produce excellent and top-notch films through this candor that makes a difference, such as peer review works, as same as in school systems, academia. They feel that they are peers of each other, and they can add smart perspectives, healthy organizations. Candor raises the game with analysts and revisions and talks about rewrites, the scripts and reworking. One time he said the storyboard, and said there's 12,000 storyboards just to make a script or a film. Brain trust meetings, screenings, conference rooms. They have lunch together, gather their thoughts and ideas, and they offer a summary. You've been in these meetings of the brain trust of your organization, wrap themselves around meals, and they come up with ideas, perspectives, and solutions about how to make the organization strong or rebuild. Next slide. Brain trust connects. This is how they connect. They have an equal voice among each other. Themes and ideas emerge because of this. A call for improvement, he says. Observations. Find strengths and weaknesses throughout these meetings of brain trust. They can pivot the group, create the film for others, not just for themselves, but engage the audience in what's going on here and draw people in. They can give up their control. They can work out their problems and through puzzles put the little puzzle pieces of ideas together. They struggle with their own dilemmas. If they are spread too thin, they could bring in another person to help revive the situation. Next slide. The next slide is brain trust is named. Rich Moore, working on the puzzles. He's the puzzle man. Andrew Stanton, make the wisest decisions about the course of treatment, he says. Bob Peterson, when it focuses on you, there is no avoiding the gaze. Riviera, Jonas Riviera, brain trust meetings